is also a thumping tackle.
Hello and welcome to Players Lounge on Asia Rugby. This is the first episode for year 2022, and if you're still not inspired, we have two great personalities who have been inspired by this rugby. And of course, Heather Fisher won a Rugby World Cup to England, have dominated the rugby world through her experience, through her industrial work rate, especially with her tackles and also some great tries and running. And of course, on the other hand, we have Yasmine Dehbi, Qatar Rugby Sevens women's captain, and she's been an inspirational figure to improve women's rugby, not only in Qatar, but also in Asia. Very good morning and marhaba, Heather and Yasmine.
Hey guys, good morning.
Good morning, good afternoon, Qatar.
Good afternoon. Yes, it is. Thank you very much for joining. Heather, if I may ask you first, in terms of overcoming obstacles, perhaps Asia Rugby Fraternity only know about you less in terms of what you went through, especially those two new words, anorexia and alopecia, which I came to know. But when I researched that seems quite really big challenge in terms of overcome, Heather. Platform is open for you to explain what you went through.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. First of all, good morning to everyone, and thank you so much for having me here on your show. I think it's really interesting with females just growing up in what I would still say is a male-dominated world and male-dominated sports. And I think you kind of grew up as a female to be a certain way, to live by certain values, and to be this certain person. Whereas actually, what you find is that you need to be able to find your own identity. And what I struggled with is that even though I love rugby and got into rugby, I was always into my training. I was always into, I suppose, having muscles. I love weight training, but I didn't do it because of what I looked like. I did it because of what I loved and what I had a passion for. And I fell into a trap, if being honest, of anorexia is the eating disorder. And I had body dysmorphia, where I thought that when I looked in the mirror, I felt like I was really fat and really overweight. And so I suppose it's more of a psychological challenge. But for me, it came about by the fact that I felt like as a female athlete, I should look a certain way, and I should be skinny, I should be smaller, and muscles are for guys and not for girls. And you hear a lot of it now still, like, I don't want to do weights because I'm going to get big. And it isn't about being big, and it isn't about having muscles. It's about being strong for what you're about to go and do, which is represent your country, which is an amazing experience. So that was a real challenge for me. I was really ill for a good few years. I was stopped from everything in my life. I was seeing counsellors, a nutritionist, doctors, psychologists every night after school, and I was stopped from all sport. And I went down just under 6 stones. It's about 5.5 stones. So I lost a lot of confidence. I was skin and bone. I didn't eat. And I got in this vicious circle of what you now see as anorexia, or what you call anorexia. And it's basically a disorder where you just don't eat. But I suppose it ate me up without realizing. But what kept me in the straight and narrow, and what brought me back to, I suppose, life itself, was my passion for rugby and getting into rugby and aspiring to be that elite athlete that I always wanted to be.
That is some wonderful news in terms of where rugby have taken you to overcome these obstacles. Wonderful inspirational news indeed. We'll come back to you, Heather. Let's go to Yasmine. Yasmine, of course, when you take the West Asia women's rugby or women's sports, there are so many obstacles, but you have been dealing, or how did you deal all these obstacles? Now you're Qatar Rugby's women's captain.
First of all, thank you for having me as well. It's an honor for me to be on this show with Heather. She's a legend. Everybody really appreciates what you're doing for rugby women, especially. I just want to say, for us in Qatar, rugby is not a famous sport. It's a sport that we're introducing it to the people year by year, and we're trying to have a community. So I think that's one of the struggles that we've been having, as well as COVID. We couldn't train. They've been very strict in the country. We couldn't train together. We had to do it online. We had to keep up with the games together and motivate each other just so we can go on the field again. West Asia, we held West Asia 2021 here in Qatar, as well as 2019. But this one has been different because I think a lot of people haven't been playing or training. So for us to be back as a team and put on the work has been amazing. We were so happy to do it. We had an amazing tournament, and we played new teams such as UAE. We played Iran for the first time. We see improvements in some of the other teams like Syria. So it was an amazing feeling to be back, especially with my team together.
That's great news. We'll come back to you as well, Yasmine. Heather, in terms of alopecia, I mean, that is like automatically hair loss. When you take that into consideration, you're talking about digital media didn't exist like 10 years ago, maybe a decade ago. And if you had that opportunity, you would have expressed about this. But here's the platform. How did you overcome, especially losing your hair? And when you look at the mirror, you feel like so much upset, and you also felt embarrassed in terms of going into the public and all.
Yeah, I think if I'm honest, like you say about 10 years ago, I still feel embarrassed about losing my hair now. I don't think you ever really get over it. And let's be honest, in some cultures, your hair is sacred, isn't it? So actually that just shows how much of a personality your hair does and how much of it is you. Yeah, I don't know. They're such difficult subjects. I feel like I smile through them, but if I'm just being honest, like it's been one of the highest challenges that I go through. Losing your hair, you don't really plan to lose your hair. You don't really plan to know how you're going to cope with it. Psychologically, it had the biggest effect on me. So, you know, rugby was the only place, like I didn't just get to England overnight. I worked my absolute socks off, and I had this dream to want to become Olympian. I had a dream to want to be an athlete. I had a dream to put myself on a platform where I could inspire more people. And every day that's what I've aspired to do. But to get to that platform, obviously I've gone through obstacles, and one of them was losing my hair. I personally feel like it was just down to the training and intensity that I was delivering. I've trained and played at a very high level for all my career. I've just retired recently, but for 25 years, I've been up there at the very top. And to repeat success upon success, like we all know how it is when we have a great day, but to be able to repeat it every day for years is a challenge that I set anyone to do. And losing my hair was something that I still struggle with now. I lost it when I was 26, so mid-20s. And I didn't expect it. It started off just falling out in clumps before I went to a World Cup. And I put it down to, it was stress because my body was in a good place. I was still performing. I was doing well in the gym. I was doing well on the pitch. I was in quite a happy place for someone who's got a lot of passion and aspiration and a lot of pressure on their shoulders. But I felt like I wasn't a good place. So for me personally, it's just down to the stress that I think I hold in myself. And I think I found the art of putting on this brave, courageous face, but actually inside, I care and want to make so many big changes that I don't really stop. Losing your hair is something you don't plan for. Like I said, psychologically, it's really tough, especially when I go to countries like Hong Kong, Dubai, like Asia, where, you know, you're deemed as a guy if you haven't got hair. And then I've got the masculinity of the muscles as well. So I'm athletic, lost my hair. And the only place I felt really, really comfortable, if I'm honest, Sabir, was the rugby pitch, because that's the one place that I was judged for my performance. I wasn't judged for being anything else apart from playing my game. So for me, it was it was an identity, and it was a way to really to prove that actually it doesn't matter who you are, what you have, what you don't have, color of your skin or your race. You will judge me from what you see right now with 4 white lines against an opposition, and that's it. So it was a real way for me to have freedom. But yeah, it's been, I must, you know, it's a challenge in itself just psychologically. And I don't think I've really, if I'm honest, at my age now, I'm just retired, I don't think I've really come to terms with understanding what it looks like for me, because I think I try and disguise it. And I make it work with hats and glasses. And I love my glasses, love my hats. And that is probably my image. But, you know, I do struggle with confidence. And I think there'll be a lot of females watching this who go, well, I don't know how you do it. And I get messages on my Instagram saying, well, how are you so confident? How do you do it? And it's a mindset. It's a choice to put yourself in that mindset to want to go and succeed. Now, I choose to put myself there. I choose to want to live by that. And it's not easy. You have to make choices along the way. And I think the biggest choice for females is your lifestyle and how that looks in terms of how it should look in terms of family and having children and what you're perceived to be versus actually what do you really want to be and how you're going to go about doing it. Because not only as a female do you have to challenge the mindsets of other people, which is a daily thing, it's also challenging yourself to understand that what you're doing is okay to do. And it's great to have this aspirational mindset to go and want to be something or go and be someone or go and change the world, as people say it. And if that means that, you know, you have to make certain sacrifices along who you are, then that's okay. And I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned about losing my hair is that it's developed me a platform to be able to help other people and to understand who I really am inside of what you see, you know.
Wonderful indeed, Heather, how you overcome. I get goosebumps, to be really honest. And
Me
what a
too.
fascinating story. What a fascinating story indeed. You talked about, Heather, chasing your dreams to become an Olympian, and you have already won a Rugby World Cup, which is great. And also, we know how industrial work rate you have given through with your enormous work rate in the rugby field, which is fascinating to watch. And hopefully, Yasmine also inspired with that. We saw in the intro how impactful tackle that he made on a rugby show. Yasmine, taking all this into consideration, Yasmine, how do you see your rugby and Qatar's rugby in coming 2 years? You all hosted the West Asia, again West Asia hopefully will come back to Qatar. And where do you see in terms of performance?
In terms of performance, I think we're training nonstop, even when sometimes the country stops training for us for a bit because of COVID. We still have specific trainings that we do in the gym, outside in the field. For us, the only way I can explain it is that there's always a one step forward. We're never going back because we love the game and we want to improve, and we want people to know that there's a Qatari female and a male team that is there and we are able to do a lot. We love this game so much. And one of the things that Heather just said is that she doesn't care what everyone thinks. She doesn't care what, even when we struggle with things, the most important thing is when we go on that pitch, how we feel. And when we play with that ball, how do we want to improve and what we want to do and what we want to achieve. So I think for us as Qatar, that's our aim as well. We just want to go on that pitch, learn from legends like Heather, learn from people who have been in the game for so long, and we're not scared to compete, and we love competition. We're starting now in West Asia, and we are aiming for more, hopefully, for higher levels.
Wonderful, fingers crossed. And talking about Heather, I mean, people, although the famous quote, don't judge the book by its cover, but people still do. And that is something people do. And what is the message that you want to give, especially people in those emotional barriers or those having difficulties? How should they overcome? What would be your message?
Look, I just think gender and race should be taken out of the equation, full stop. Like, whether you're a guy or a girl from Qatar, Asia, Hong Kong, or England right now, you've all got your story. We've all got our story. Whether you choose to take it on and you choose to get to know someone is up to you. And it's something that only you as a person can understand. But from experience, you know, I wouldn't say I get negative, but I do get a lot of issues with having no hair and having big muscles. And as you can imagine, if I'm in a bikini, I get stared at like all the time. Like, it's not even who is that? It's like, what is that? So, you know, it has its own issues and I can smile about it, but does it get me down? Yeah, of course it does. I'm only human. And I think what we have to remember is that we're all human. Inside of all of us, despite the color and where we come from, is a person. And that for me is what it's about, being conscious about what you say and conscious about how you take on board, you know, the human race and how you treat people. I think that for me, that's really important because I get that myself. I get it and I understand it. I'm on the side of it. So for me, it's something consciously that I try and do. I think you have to be conscious, and people would say, well, Fish, you shouldn't have to be conscious because it should be automatic. Well, no, actually it shouldn't, because I think we've had to be educated, and I'm on that side as well, where you have to be educated in different cultures and different ways of living and different ways of doing stuff. And, you know, I'll be naive to think that I don't have to be educated, you know, in those areas. We can all learn, right? And we can all learn from people in Qatar, people from Asia, people from Hong Kong, people from India. We just don't understand, and we don't know what we don't know. So on the other side of that, we only know what we know. Therefore, get to know. And one thing I would say, I suppose the message is get to know someone. You know, especially, you know, we've touched upon it, but during COVID, things are done differently. The things that were done differently were always actually there. You know, they weren't. It's not been reinvented. It's just actually we've had to take a different stance on stuff. And when you're forced to take a different stance, you're forced to think differently, and then you do differently, right?
Absolutely, indeed. In that case, we all know that how Black Lives Matter came, but here you're talking about the whole humanity perspective, which is a wonderful indeed to hear. And I also want to ask you, Heather, about fearless versus fearless, fearless versus fearless in terms of your career.
Yeah, so for me personally, I think it's when you step on the pitch, right? People sometimes, and people go, "Fish, you get nervous." I don't get nervous now, right? I got to a stage where in the last 5 years of my career, I didn't get nervous, hand on heart. I got nervous about the pain I was going to hit, because in sevens you hit enormous pain levels, especially if you're going to work and you're putting yourself out to go to work. You've got to work, which means you're going to hurt. So for me, I got almost scared about, am I going to survive? Am I actually going to get through this and not hit that pain cave and not be able to move? But there's a difference in going out to play, going out to win, and going out not to lose. You know, you'll hear players go, "We can't lose this game. Well, let's just go and win it." You know, we're not going out to lose, we're going to win. And the language you use in terms of the language you use about fear or winning or losing, for me, is no different. Playing with no fear and having the opportunity to go and create your own, like, it's having the coaches and the setup around you to go and be able to be yourself is really, really important. I learned, especially, you know, through losing my hair, that if I was myself, when I was true to myself and I could be myself, then I could just go and perform. I didn't have any fear. If I hold back and I try and I play, I suppose, to a system, or I play to a certain way, you know, you do have a little bit of fear in you. You get scared about what's going to happen. You get scared about the results, scared about the outcome, because you've got performance factors to consider. You've maybe got medals at contention, or you've got World Series where you have to come top 3 or top 4 to get to certain places. And I think for me personally, playing, you'll hear players say about being fearless. You've got to go out there and be brave. I think the opposite to fear for me is being brave. And if you're brave in what you do and you just take it on the chin, you're going to make mistakes. That's the world we live in, right? You don't play a game of tennis if no one's scoring against you. And my analogy to that is almost like you can't go onto a pitch and not make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. But if we actually stay true and go and play with bravery, you put yourself out on a platform to go and play. And that for me creates this fearless factor, because you'll just end up playing full white line. You got 7 people versus 7, and that's all it is.
Absolutely, 7 versus 7. Wonderful indeed. Yasmine, you played West Asia along with Iran and a few other West Asian countries like Syria and Lebanon, for instance. What is the women's rugby feedback and thoughts in terms of development from your other countries, what you're getting from your close friends?
So as I said, we played back in 2019. Actually, Qatar hosted it as well. And to be honest, the level is higher now, even with Corona. We've watched teams like Syria grow slowly. When we played them in West Asia, they were there. They were brave to play. They were coming. They didn't care about what the results were gonna be, but they wanted to play. And we had a really fun, competitive game. UAE as well. Sadly, Lebanon couldn't join us this year for the females, but we were surprised by the level, because everybody, the second that the lockdown was gone, everyone was training. Everybody they were all putting on the work. So yeah, the level is definitely increasing in West Asia, and we would like to play more countries, even outside of Asia. I think the only way for us to improve is to play harder games, to compete. Whether we lose or win, we want to improve as a team together. So that's our aim for now. And maybe one day we'll be able to play in higher positions, like the World Series.
I think Yasmine just touched on it. I think it's really important to remember that the fun comes from the hard work. if you work hard in something, if you have a passion and you have a purpose for something, whether it be sport, life, your business, whether you're a CEO of a company, it doesn't matter what field it's in, right? If you have a purpose and you work hard towards something, that's rewarding, isn't it? And that's the fun that comes in. Because I think sometimes you sit here as players and go, it must be fun. Well, how do you, when you're in a pain cave, it isn't fun. When you're working all hours of the day and you're missing things, it's not fun. But the fun comes from the results. And I think that's really, really important to remember when you're on your path to whatever you're trying to do in life to succeed, is that element will come when you get your processes right.
Absolutely, indeed, yes. We'll talk about inspiration further, Yasmine. What sort of message you want to give to your Qatar community? If you can just say Qatar community to get into rugby or inspire them.
If you don't mind, I want to say this in Arabic, so
of course, yes, of course.
I can say it in a better way. كل البنات اللي حابين يشاركوا أو حابين عندهم فضول على رياضة الرجبي. رياضة الرجبي هي رياضة أولمبية، رياضة جماعية، رياضة مرحة، رياضة كلها حماس. وأنا واحدة من الناس جربت رياضة الرجبي، يعني جربتها بس بفضول، ما كان عندي نية إني أنا إن ألعبها احترافيا. بس من يوم ما جربت الرياضة ولا مرة فكرت إني أطلع. الرياضة خلت عندي إحساس إنه عندي عائلة رياضية داخل الملعب، وصار عندي غيرت حياتي. رياضة غيرت حياتي، ورياضة الرجبي خصوصا يعني من الرياضات اللي ما كنت أنا أظن إني ممكن أكون فيها. وإن شاء الله نمثل دولة قطر، وإحنا بنرحب كل البنات في أي وقت في أي مكان تجد معنا وتجربوا الرياضة. ممكن تشاركونا في الانستغرام أكاونت تبعنا إن شاء الله.
Wonderful indeed. I see you're so emotional in terms of giving that inspirational message. You mentioned about Olympic also. I'll give you a few more seconds if you can describe that in English as well, Yasmine.
I just said that a lot, especially in our culture, rugby is not very known, and when people watch it, they don't really, it doesn't like give them that feeling that you can come and try it anytime, just like in other sport. So I was just telling them that we do have rugby in Qatar, and if you're curious about the sport, you can just come join us. You can come watch the game. You can ask us questions, and you can just try it for fun, because that's how it started with me. I was never willingly, I've never planned to be in the team. I just went. I was curious. I wanted to try rugby for the first time, and since the day I went, I've never stopped playing. So it just took me away straight away. So that's what I said in Arabic.
Wonderful indeed. You went to play rugby for fun. Now you are an inspirational leader for Qatar, and you're the inspiration for Asia, without a doubt. We can talk a lot more in terms of rugby, but time is really short. I just want to go to our next episode. Helen, we wish we can speak to you a lot more, but we have two different segments coming here. I just want to ask you, in terms of our Asia Rugby Fun question, there are three questions I want to ask you, and we have Asia Rugby IQ, Asia Rugby Fun Q. Which one you want to go first?
Oh my God, the Fun Q, definitely.
Right. Okay.
I've got no IQ.
Me too.
We'll find it out. This is a very good option for Yasmine to beat England women's rugby team. Let's take it that way.
Oh no.
All right. Here's the fun cue, right? Dan Carter or Johnny Wilkinson?
Dan Carter.
Dan as well.
Wow. Okay, and why?
You can talk first.
Just a very instinctive player. I think he wears his heart on his sleeve. I think what you see is what you get. He goes with the flow. He makes mistakes. He's not scared to fail, and he goes again.
For me, I'm not really. I don't watch a lot of rugby for males. I only watch female rugby, but I think I can say that he's a great player, and that's it. I don't have the.
Yeah, I mean, there don't have to be a reason. You just can say. I mean, you can skip the question, no problem. Right, here we go.
Yeah.
Question number 2. Terry Baker or Carly Niles?
Niles.
That's a tough one.
I know. We just want to send the message for either one who you choose here.
All right, 3, 2, 1. I'm just going to go Kai and Isles. I could pick any of them, but they're both awesome players. Their transferable skills are insane.
Sorry, Perry, if you're watching, but don't worry. We'll find out next time someone. I mean, there's a million of followers for Perry. Yeah. Okay. Next question. Another tough one. Jerry Tuai or Waisale Sereri?
Jerry Tuai.
Therapy.
Sereri. Okay. So I was wondering whether Yasmine would answer this because she said she don't watch a men's rugby, but wow.
Yeah, but I know this one.
How come she can miss a legend? Okay, that's interesting call. And why?
I don't have a lot of info about the first player. That's why I answered with the second one.
Jerry Tuai and Serevi are really similar players, but Jerry Tuai is like new on the scene now, like crazy feet, like just make something happen out of nothing. That he shouldn't really be allowed to score half the tries he scores, but he just scores them out of pure insaneness and just skill. Serevi's the king of rugby, where like back in my day, I actually bumped into him in the airport about 4 years ago, and he asked for a photo. He asked for a selfie with me, and I was like, I should be asking you for a selfie. This is I was like, this should be the other way around, Serevi. But just the king of rugby, he put, for Fiji, he put rugby on the map. He made people look at Fiji and go, yikes, you guys are crazy cool and good. So he really set the standards.
Wonderful. Yes, and to let you know about Jerry Tuai, 2 Olympic gold medalist, Yasmine. And okay, let's go to Asia Rugby IQ. Where is this year's Rugby World Cup Sevens will be hosted?
This year's? It's Cape Town, isn't it?
Oh, yes, you got it. You nailed it. And yeah, it's in Cape Town. This year's Rugby Sevens World Cup. And mind you, there are 4 Asian teams who will be competing in that. Japan and China women, and also Hong Kong and South Korea men's team. So fingers crossed for the Asian teams.
That's great.
That's great indeed. Right.
Yeah.
Which teams were beaten by Japan during the first Asian Rugby World Cup in 2019?
Which countries were
I
beaten?
remember.
Which countries were beaten by Japan?
2019. I remember watching, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
I got
remember the final. It's stuck here.
Okay. Well, Japan beat Scotland, Ireland, Russia, Samoa, and Scotland, Ireland, Russia, Samoa. Yes, and they went into the quarterfinals. They lost to South Africa.
That's for the 15s, isn't it? For the 15s, not
That's
7s.
right. Yes.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
15s,
It was 15s. Yeah.
They did so well, but they put Japan on the map, didn't they?
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, that is one of the most watched Rugby World Cup and one of the most successful Rugby World Cup. Not only I say so, we spoke to a few legends in the likes of Matt Dawson, David Campisi. They all agreed that it is fascinating to Asia as a whole, Heather. And moving on to the final questions. Question: how many member unions Asia Rugby consists of?
Member unions.
Wow. I want to say, oh my gosh, surely everyone has their own union.
Yes.
Is it 11?
A bit higher.
All right, 35.
Wow, you nailed it.
Wow.
Is that a guessing or you just Google it?
No, I just plucked
That's
plucked it out of the English air. This English air is really good.
Yeah. See, we created a platform for you, Heather. When you come to Asia next time, people would really understand you, and there won't be any barrier in terms of race or color or whatever you said early on. So yeah, it's 35. It was 34, and Oman Rugby became recently as Asia Rugby's associate member. So it's 35. Heather Fisher, the legend, thank you very much. I know you want to leave in another 1 minute. You have some other commitment. And Yasmine Dehbi, thank you very much. And it was great to have you on the show. And we'll talk to you in the future. And I just want to thank you and wrap up the show. Your final thoughts, Heather?
Yeah, just thank you very much. Keep the great work. And hopefully I can come out to Asia and hopefully go outside the world to come and coach. Now I'm free to come and have freedom to be able to coach. So yeah, it'd be great to come out there and change mindsets, develop the rugby and put you guys on the map.
It was
Wonderful
really,
indeed.
really nice meeting you, Heather. And hopefully one day you can come and visit us here and give us some of your experience and we get to have fun together.
That'd be great.
Great. Thank
Thank you.
you very much. Have a great day.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.